Hello and welcome to HorsePlayer Happy Hour. I am not your host, PTF. He's in London, gallivanting. I feel like I say that all the time when I say where Pete is. He's gallivanting. But Pete's kind of got a gallivant about him. If you know Pete, he's kind of always, kind of walks like this. He's got his hat on, and he's always gallivanting. I think it's the right word, but maybe it's not. I am Jonathan Kinchin, and this is HorsePlayer Happy Hour. It's a little tricky this time, though, because we don't have a contest. We had racing canceled at a couple places, so the contest didn't go because of that. And so it's just basically you and I here for the next hour talking a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk a little bit about the Stephen Foster winning your in race for the Breeders' Cup. We'll talk about that race. We'll talk about that race as a whole and what it means to that division. What I want to do here is let's go pretty heavy on the questions today, right? So if you have questions, let's try to make them Breeders' Cup centric. Let's try to have them. And look, if I got to search some stuff, I'll look it up. If I got to look some things up, we'll do it. We'll have conversations. If there's a horse that you're interested in betting in the Breeders' Cup, let's talk about it. I'll look the horse up. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about what I think. We can go wherever you guys and gals want to go as it pertains to the Breeders' Cup questions wise. What else we'll do? Like I said, we'll talk about the Foster. Pete has a couple of interviews that he's done, loaded up with our betting stories. Maybe it'll spark my mind at some other Breeders' Cup betting stories. I think last week I told one that was of the emotional version, but I'll also maybe I can tell my Bobby's Kitten one, which is kind of fun. I'm sure there's some other ones I can think of. Yeah, there's some more. We'll figure that out. But let's jump right in first before we get to the stories. We'll talk about this weekend's Stephen Foster. Grade 1 Stephen Foster, $1 million. Always been at Churchill Downs. Obviously, Churchill not running. It's going to be at Ellis Park. And it is a win in your in race for the Classic. And I did a show with Nick Tamero earlier today. We recorded that. We talked about this race. And there's two horses to me that kind of stand out. The 5 Smile Happy and the 6 West Willpower. The rest of them kind of all look the same and feel the same. From a speed figure standpoint, maybe they jump up and run. They've all won nice races, but they're not the most consistent. But the 5 Smile Happy, who ran extremely well in the Ali Sheba, and West Willpower, who didn't run that well in the Ali Sheba, I think are the two main horses. I'm going to approach this race being very, very aggressive with West Willpower. And the reason is because I loved West Willpower in the Ali Sheba, but got loose down on the inside and didn't run that well. If you were paying attention on Oaks Day, it kind of felt like one of those races, those days where being down on the inside isn't necessarily where you want it to be. And I said it earlier on the show we recorded, we talk often about bias when it comes to dirt racetracks and talking about, if the rail is good or the rail is bad, or you wanted to be outside or you wanted to be inside or whatever it might be. And I think one of the easiest ways to identify if there happens to be a bias is when a horse that you, not me or someone else, a horse that you love, that you feel really strongly about, runs extremely bad on a certain part of the racetrack. It's the first indicator for me when a horse that I love runs poorly on a certain part of the racetrack. And then basically what I'll do then is I'll start paying attention to it and see if other horses, maybe I don't have that strong of opinion about those horses, but if other horses start to also struggle on that part of the racetrack. And that's what happened with West Willpower. I loved West Willpower that day, and he just didn't run that well on the inside. And he had an easy lead. The pace wasn't terribly fast. And the way that he just kind of stopped made me kind of start to think that maybe that wasn't the place that you wanted to be. And if that's the case, then you can kind of draw a line through that race. And I think that West Willpower will run something more similar to what he did down in New Orleans. So West Willpower for me. Smile Happy makes a little bit of sense, but I just don't quite trust in that situation for him to kind of turn the tables. I think everything kind of worked in his favor last time. He got a great trip. Smile Happy did. And then West Willpower didn't fire. So he kind of inherited that win. Don't tell Mattress Mac I said that, because I'm sure that he would be upset at me for talking. Not I'm talking bad about a Run Happy, but I think West Willpower is a better horse. Last Samurai he's had some big races, but he just seems to kind of have tailed off. However, if you want to take the theory that I'm trying to sell you, that I didn't think you wanted to be inside, that could help Last Samurai, who spent a little bit of time on the inside in the Ali Shiba as well. So possibly he could take another step forward. I've just never really been over the moon about him. So that's kind of my hesitance there. Rattle and Roll, I think, is cool, but I think Rattle and Roll is the type of horse that just kind of takes advantage of races that aren't to this quite level. Like I think he's a grade 2, grade 3 horse that can, it's 6 to 5 is going to win those races. But I'm not sure if the real West Willpower shows up, or if Smile Happy kind of repeats that performance, or if Last Samurai takes another step forward. I'm not quite sure where Rattle and Roll fits in that equation. I'd love to see Rattle and Roll show up at Saratoga this summer and running one of those 1.5 mile, 1 3/4 dirt races. I think the longer the better for Rattle and Roll. So really excited to watch the Stephen Foster post time 4:26, and I'm pretty sure that's Central. But let me double check. And while I'm double checking that, I do want to also say something about the Central time zone. Nick Tamero and I talked about it today. Let's see, what are we talking about? Ellis? And I dare you to disagree with me. I'm going to look at the comments after I say this. The Central time zone, yes, 4:26 Central. The Central time zone is without a doubt the best time zone for sports and for horse racing. Tell me I'm wrong. Football, NFL football starts at noon. Monday Night Football, I think it's 7:15. So you don't have to stay up till 11:30 to watch a game. It's the best time zone for sports. And if you don't agree with me, I don't agree with you. All right. So that's Stephen Foster, 4:26 Central, which would be 5:26 Eastern on Saturday, race 10. Some other cool sticks around it as well. You can check out our other podcast to hear more about it. Race 11, the Tepin. I can't wait to watch Chigurh run, who I've been a huge fan of. You also have the Wise Dan, where Set Piece, if I'm not mistaken, shows up in there. I had Florent Giroux on JK+1, and he told me that this is like his favorite horse, kind of like his pet. And he said that if he had a farm big enough that he would steal Set Piece when he retires, but he doesn't have a farm big enough, so I don't think he's going to be able to pop him in the back of his car. And then also the La Troyenne, race 8. So there's some fun stakes going on at Ellis surrounding the Win and You're In Stephen Foster. Okay. Somebody said, how come I never get any respect? I'm the best Breeders' Cup futures wager gambler. Elliot. Okay. I mean, here's your respect, buddy. Good for you. That's awesome. I mean, Elite Power is obviously a talented racehorse, and I don't think you're the only one in the world. Seems like there might be someone else, but congratulations for that. Eastern time zone all the way. Yeah. Okay. Well, look, in my old age, I'm on Saturday, I'm going to be turning 41. And at my old age, and no offense if you're older than that, I'm just joking. I'm not that old, but it's hard to watch a game that starts at 8:15 and, stay up until midnight. It's tough. It's tough. I'm sticking with Central. You didn't give any evidence. All you said is Eastern time zone's better. You didn't give any facts. So we'll get some more questions in. In the meantime, we're going to go to one of Pete's interviews. If I'm not mistaken, this is one of the wagering stories at the Breeders' Cup.
PTF back with you with another one of our Breeders' Cup betting stories celebrating 40 years of the Breeders' Cup this year as part of our HorsePlayer Happy Hour shows. I'm bringing on one of my colleagues from Sky Sports Racing and a man who he loves his betting. And I knew when we came up with this idea that Tony Ennis would have something to say. Enzo, where are we going? Where is the Wayback Machine taking us today?
We're going to go back, Pete, almost 20 years. So we go back a bit. We go back to 2004, October the 30th, 2004. Lone Star Park, Texas, which was an unusual. You wouldn't imagine it now, would you? Being a Breeders' Cup venue, but it was back then. And a night I remember really well. We went. It was back in the day when we used to the old stateside on the old Tierra and I style stateside, and at the old at the races. We had a big night in London actually, which one of my fellow hosts was actually hosting, and then I got invited to the top table, and we were doing talks and previews and things. And obviously, there was back in those days there was cash betting available as well. So it was a night I was looking forward to a lot.
Fantastic. I mean, that sounds like a scene to behold. I was over at the Meadowlands in New Jersey watching, everybody was talking Ghost Zapper and the Haas and all these stories at that Breeders' Cup. Jonathan, who's pinch hitting here, hosting HorsePlayer Happy Hour, was the first, I believe it was the first Breeders' Cup he ever went to. So where does our story go from there?
Okay, so I was there. I was going to. I remember I popped this in my dad, who's no longer with us, sadly, on the way to this the hotel in London where it was at. I was going with my then partner at the time. My dad gave me. He wanted to have some bets, cash, but he didn't want to go out. He wanted to watch it. It was on television, obviously, as well. So he gave me £20. And he wrote down 4 horses he wanted to back. £5 win. He says, just put a fiver. He said, is there cash betting? I said, yeah, there's cash betting available there. I'll do your bet. So he gave me this. I didn't look at it at the time. He gave me £20, £5 single bets he wanted to back. Mostly Europeans and Irish. Being an Irishman, he wanted to back the UK and Irish runners in America. I got there. I had about £150 betting bank myself. And it just started really badly. I remember I chose the wrong one the first couple of races. My dad's first bet, he backed a European horse in one of the juvenile races. No good. Another European. I was like, this is not going well. I got to his third bet. I'm thinking, it was my turn to get the drinks in. So I've gone to the bar. Meanwhile, bar's taking a while. It's a bit of a delay. His next bet, what is it? £5 win. Wilco he wanted. He loved Frankie Dettori. Love Frankie Dettori. I looked up at the boards because you could have the fixed odds there, 30-1. I think this is not going to win. I thought if I leave my position in the bar queue to go and put my dad's £5 on Wilco, I'm going to be looking at another 15-minute wait to get a drink. So I said, you know what? It's not going to win, is it? So I'll leave his bet on Wilco. I'll carry on waiting for the drinks. Oh, so just all the drinks, they're off. Gates crash open, race starts. Put my order of the drinks. Looking back, Wilco's at his back 4th, 5th. He's not going to win. So gradually, I'm watching it as I'm speaking to the bartender. There's a screen up there. I'm watching it. I'm kind of speaking to him, and then, oh dear, Frankie's going all right here. I remember the horse, light colours, wasn't it? Jeremy Nacida horse, Frankie Dettori. Frankie starts winding up. Thought something's going to come. One of the Americans is going to come and save me. Surely they're going to come and save. No, Wilco wins. I haven't put the bet on. I put the first 2 on. I haven't put my dad's £5 on. He's going to be at home now, jumping up and down in front of, I think it must have been Channel 4 or ITV. Channel 4, I think, covered it in those days. And I'm thinking,
You're
no.
150 right there.
Yeah, so I'm already losing on the night, and I'm losing again. It's not going well this night, is it? It's not going well. So anyway, a couple more bets, still not going well. Of course, I put his next bet on a horse which lost, so he had 1 out of 4. It was the one I didn't put on that won. Anyway, I'm going to have a bet, and the last this Ouija board's about to run. Kieran Fallon, even money. She's going to win. She was my nap of the night anyway. I went there with the intention of just backing Ouija board, and obviously all these mad things happening to me just threw me off kilter. Anyway, I bumped into Barry Faulkner, our good friend there.
Oh, nice.
I said, what do you fancy the classic? I said to him, I fancy Pleasantly Perfect. He goes, no, Ghost Sapper. It's Ghost Sapper's day. He's going to win. I'm thinking, what do I do here? So I've half written my ticket out, £30 win double, Ouija board, set, even money, and then I've got to fill in the classic. I'm thinking, the Wise Eagle knows his thing, doesn't he, in American racing? I've gone with it. I've changed my Pleasantly Perfect to Ghost Sapper. So £30 win double. Lo and behold, Ouija board wins. brilliant performance. The whole place, standing ovation. You imagine what it was like in London when we had a UK winner, which was rare in those days in the Breeders' Cup. To get a winner, we were delighted. And I've got 60 running on to Go Sapper. I think price was about 11-4, 5-2, that sort of price.
Oh.
Anyway, Go Sapper leads up, doesn't he? I'm thinking, they're all coming to. I remember around the turn, looks like somebody's going to go past him, but no, he kicks on and he goes and wins. I see Barry Faulkner coming up to high five me, and I think, go and collected. Ended up, got the 155, my dad, for the Wilco bet. And I ended up almost what I started the day with. It was just an incredible story.
In horse racing, very often we tell there's stories where even when you win, you lose. Here's one where even though you broke even, you won.
Yeah, we went out for drinks afterwards. It was just a great night. And then I remember I went to see my dad. We used to play golf on the Sunday. Every Sunday we used to play. So I went round and he goes, "Oh, did you see it?" I said, "Yeah, great." He goes, "Wilco was great, wasn't it?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Did you back it as well?" And I was like, "No. I just put your."
You didn't pop to it.
And of course, sadly, he passed away. He passed away a few years ago, and I never ever told him the truth. There we go.
Just as well. Sometimes with betting mistakes, you're better off just eating them. That's a fantastic story, Tony. I knew you would bring the goods. Appreciate having you on these airwaves and looking forward to working with you on Sky Sports Racing soon.
Cheers, Pete.
That's a good one. That's a bad feeling when someone asks you to make a bet. I mean, look, there's been times where people have, I've been somewhere and someone said, "Hey, will you bet $50 on this no hoper?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got you." And I don't bet it. I don't usually make them give me the 50 either, but I don't usually bet it. But there is times where I panicked a little bit. I think Lafitte Pinkai asked me that one time. He's like, "Hey, can you bet this horse for me?" And I hated the horse. But I thought to myself, like, man, if this horse wins, I'm gonna have to give him like $1,400, and I don't really want to do that. So what I did instead is whatever he wanted me to bet, I took half of it, and I bet that just half. So if I would have lost, I would have had a little bit to give in that situation. It's funny he mentions that Breeders' Cup. That was my first Breeders' Cup. I talked about it. I don't remember when. There's a lot of podcasts. I forget which one I'm talking about. But I bought those tickets on eBay. It was in 2004, so I was in my 20s, and my dad, we lived 15 minutes with no traffic to Lone Star Park. And so we knew the Breeders' Cup was coming. I got the tickets on eBay, and I joked with Pete, I didn't even know who the hell Go Zapper was, which is embarrassing now to say that, but I didn't know who Go Zapper was. But that was my first Breeders' Cup. Graham Motion actually told me that when I had him on JK Plus One, that was his first Breeders' Cup win. So I told him that, it was a first for both of us. But also he told a story. You should listen to that one. It's a good episode. He tells a story about how it was just a tough trip from his groom got deported there and Graham never got to see never saw him again. So Graham's job changed significantly that weekend, having to kind of do a little bit extra in the process. But it's looking through it. And while we were doing this, I was looking through old Breeders' Cups to kind of think of some ideas. And so of races to talk about. And I think what'll be kind of fun is to talk a little bit through my 2 second place Breeders' Cup betting challenge situations, and just, there's photos that mattered that would have been very bad for me. And so we'll talk through a little bit of those once we get this next video. Pete has 2 interviews. I think this one is with Tony.
You might be noticing a theme on these Breeders' Cup betting stories for this week. I'm reaching out to people who I can bother in a time zone appropriate way, as I'm here 5 hours ahead of the United States right now in the Scottish Highlands. And the next man up is a guy I've had the pleasure of working with as a researcher and as a guest on podcasts. Haven't gotten to work with him on air yet. That will come. But he is somebody who was on HorsePlayer Happy Hour last year and was a big hit. Talk and Ask It with us. Callum, hello. How are you, my man?
I am very good, Peter. How are you doing?
Things are terrific. Really curious to get your Breeders' Cup betting memory. Now, this one, we had Tony Ennis earlier in the show. He reached into the Wayback Machine for a 2004 memory. I'm guessing you're not going back that far. When did the Breeders' Cup for you become sort of an ongoing concern, and where will the story take us today?
I certainly won't be taking us back as far as 2004. I was only 8, so it wasn't really for me back then. However, my story is 2018. And when you sent me this message, it really brought back a load of memories for me. But what was quite crazy was that I still to this day cannot remember why I was in Newmarket in this pub in November 2018. I still don't know. It was a Friday night in Newmarket with a group of friends. I was absolutely dirt broke. I do remember that. I remember being very, very poor. Just finished uni. I was doing a graduate scheme job, which I'd just been let go from. So it was all looking pretty bleak in Callum Helliwell's eyes. But I got up to Newmarket to have a good time with some friends, and we ended up in a pub called The Yard. If you've not been to The Yard, I suggest you go. It's a fantastic little pub, real racing pub, a great crowd, great staff, and everyone usually having a good time there. But yes, 2018, Friday night, Future Stars Friday. I hadn't a clue about American racing. I knew of it. I mean, I watched stateside and at the races back in the day, and I was very much knew there was racing in America, but I couldn't tell you anything of any interest. What happened was we were sat in the pub, and Matt, who now is doing some big things for Tats, he actually was chatting to a few friends on the table. I was not part of the conversation. I was not cool enough to be part of the conversation. I was not a big name whatsoever, so I was just listening in. And Matt is banging on about this horse called Newspaper Record. And it basically, conversation stems, she doesn't lose. She just does not lose. This horse does not, cannot, will not lose. And I was like, well, I cannot afford dinner tonight, so I'm going to put the last of my pennies on this horse. So I had £30 in my pocket. And that was 20, which I think was meant to be for petrol. Another 10 that I found in a coat. I was broke. And I decided the best thing I could do that I literally thought, okay, I'm going to have to put a bet on this horse, but I didn't have a banking app. I didn't have a betting app on my phone. Thank goodness, because I was already in a poor financial state. A betting app wouldn't have helped. So I ran across the road to the Labrooks across the road, put £30 win on Newspaper Record at prohibitive odds. I mean, it was low odds. She was being backed off the boards. Ran back across the road, nearly got hit by a car, missed the car, got into the pub, and they've jumped. And I've just about, I'm quite a tall guy, so I've wiggled myself around to get to a space where I can see. By the time I've got there, they're already down the back, and Iran is just clear. And I'm thinking, Jesus, we might be in here. Turn for home, already clear. We are going mental in this pub. Beers going everywhere. It was just after the World Cup, so we were all in the spirit of chucking beer at things. So it was all like the beer had gone in the sky. Everyone was hugging. I mean, everyone in the pub was on. And yeah, she came in. She won by half the track. It was probably one of the most impressive Breeders' Cup performances that I remember. I know a lot of people say there have been plenty more that have been even more impressive. But from my memory, 2018, that was just wow. And then I was hooked. And I was big into my British racing and big into my sort of French racing. But suddenly the US just became this fascinating thing because I thought, how is a 2-year-old meant to win like this? How is she so far forward? And then when she comes into the winning clothes, I never forget, you got Nick like in there talking. I couldn't give a damn what Nick was saying because all I wanted to do was see this horse. And she was built like a colt. So I was like, what is this? This isn't normal. These aren't normal horses. And yeah, it was amazing. And then I was stuck following it from then on. And yeah, it was probably a very fortunate set of circumstances, but it was a great night. And yeah, it probably led me to being on this podcast here today, because without Newspaper Record, I probably would have been one of those British fans who thought American racing was just a bit too far out for them. So I'm very grateful for it.
That's great. It's nice to tie in the Breeders' Cup betting story with an origin story. We got to get you. We'll get you to one of these Breeders' Cups soon, whether it's this year or in the near future. I assume it's on your list of things to check out.
it is absolutely on my list of things to check out, alongside Warrnambool in Australia, because I'm desperate to go to that national hunt meeting over there. Melbourne Cup out there. Obviously, I'd like to do a Kentucky Derby. There's just a lot of things I want to do. So if anybody can get me out there, I would be eternally grateful. Because Peter's lied to me before, so I don't need to be lied to again. False hope.
I tried my best. That's all I'll say.
No, I really do appreciate it. I'd already booked my ticket. No, I hadn't.
You had a good time in America, as I recall. I'm not going to feel too bad about it.
Yeah, I had a fantastic time over there on the Pacific Northwest. I had a great time in Oregon, so I was very lucky to be out there. So yeah, I was there was definitely some positives as well.
Good stuff, my man. Well, we will be talking soon on these airwaves. Maybe we'll enlist you to do some analysis of some of the other winning your in races happening on this side of the pond. Callum, we'll be talking soon.
Appreciate it, Peter. Thank you.
Well, that was a fun one. Callum, I said Tony at the top. I meant to say Callum. Yeah, look, I'm going to tell two newspaper of record stories that I'll lead to. One having to do with the Breeders' Cup, one not. But I want to say this, though. When I was I got married in Italy recently, and we stopped through London to see Beyonce play, and it was the English Derby that day, and went to a racing pub in Chelsea, which was just so much fun to watch it. It's one thing that we don't really have over here that much. Even if you're in a heavy place like Lexington or even in Saratoga, there's not really like like bars or pubs that are like dedicated to racing. And my friends growing up and through college and even after college, like we always used to say, like, well, is it a sound bar? Like, is it a bar they're going to put the sound on of the event that we're watching? If I go watch a basketball game or a football game, they're going to have, is Tupac going to be playing, or are they going to be playing the sound to the racing or to the basketball game or football game? And I love that about this pub that I went to. Like, when the English Derby came on, they cranked the sound up and it was full blast, and everyone in there was clearly there to watch racing. And so I would have loved to be in that pub in Newmarket where Callum got his 60 cents on the dollar, which, look, it was a big move for me. So my two newspaper of record stories. Well, I'll tell you another thing. People always talk, I'm sure, about how Chad Brown has never really gone to Ascot, and as much success as he has in this country on the turf, you would think that at some point he would have one, whatever. Chad has said to me on a number of occasions that he wishes that he would have taken newspaper of record over there at some point in her career, because he was very confident she would have handled the racing there, and that would have been an opportunity for him to get a Royal Ascot win. So that's just an aside. Newspaper of record. Some people have heard this story. Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge is what this HorsePlayer Happy Hour is all about. So we'll talk a little bit about the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge. If you're unfamiliar with what it is a $10,000 buy-in contest, and you take $7,500 of that and you wager with it. $2,500 of it goes into the prize pool. If you win the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge, you are likely to clear $500,000. Likely, give or take. It depends on how big your bankroll gets, but you're in the $500,000 arena, and it could be more depending on what you turn your bankroll into. But you're likely clearing $500,000. It's 14 championship races from the Breeders' Cup. You can also bet some of the undercard. You can bet the undercard races as well. But there's minimums that you have to bet a certain amount of races each day. It's all very easily digestible. If you're a person out there who bets that much anyways, or close to that, I would encourage you to participate. It is the best contest in racing, and it's not even close. It's not even close. So, newspaper of record. In 2018, that Callum just described, I loved newspaper of record. I loved newspaper of record, and I was convinced 100% I was going to go all in on newspaper of record, but I was hoping that newspaper of record, the way the races were lined out, I was hoping that newspaper of record would either be before or after the juvenile, because I wanted to play doubles with game winner. I didn't have the strongest of opinions in the juvenile fillies, but I did have one opinion, which is that I didn't like Serengeti Empress, who was going to be bet. And the Serengeti Empress opinion actually leads to two other funny stories that I will tell you as well while we're sitting here. So I didn't spend any of my money yet. I had $7,500. And basically I played a very, I played newspaper of record, singled in the front leg of the double. And then I played into doubles into like jaywalk. I can't remember who else was in there. Was maybe Bellafina was in there. I feel like it was a Simon Callahan horse. Anyways, I played a couple of horses into her, and I didn't like Serengeti Empress. So I bet all the money, whatever it is, 500, turn it into, I think 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, something in that arena. And then the next day, I just kept losing. I lost on Shamrock Rose. I lost on Stormy Liberal. Finally, it all kind of turned around for me. I made a big bet on City of Light to win. I made a big bet with Sister Charlie to win. And then I went all in. I think at that point, I maybe had like 50,000. I got up to 50,000. And I bet all 50,000 on doubles with Enable into Mind Your Biscuits. Who else was in there? Maybe McKinsey was in that race. Basically everyone except for Accelerate. If I would have hit any of those, I would have got to about 150,000 or above. I didn't. I lost the whole 50. Accelerate wins. I end with 0. Now, fast forward to the next spring, where Concrete Rose and Newspaper of Record end up in the starting gate together at Churchill Downs. And I playing in a contest and on Oaks Day, and basically I do the same thing. I bet every penny on Newspaper of Record, and Concrete Rose beats her. And I'm frustrated and I'm agitated. And I rode with Craig Bernick over to Churchill that day, and was obviously riding back with Craig Bernick and Craig of Glen Hill Farm. And we're all a little banged up. We've been, at the Oaks all day, and Serengeti Empress goes on to win the Kentucky Oaks that afternoon. So we're riding back. I lost all my money on Newspaper of Record. Serengeti Empress, this horse that obviously I was trying to beat, didn't like from the previous year, wins. And I tell Craig, she'll never win another grade 1. She'll never win another grade 1. No way. Never win another grade 1. And he says, well, how much you want to bet? And like I said, banged up. I said, I bet you $10,000. I've never said this out loud publicly. I bet you $10,000 she never wins another grade 1. I bet you. And he's like, if you know Craig, Glen Hill Farm, 10's less significant to him than it is to me. And he's like, sure. All right, cool. Let's do it. Serengeti Empress proceeds to continue to lose and not win, and lose and not win, and lose and not win. And I'm just like, please retire her. And the other funny part about this moment of this happening is that I meet Tom Amos, because we're working together on the Fox shows in Naira and Saratoga Live. And I fall in love with Tom and his family. And I'm silently rooting against his favorite horse, one of his most important horses in his career. I'm rooting against her every time she runs, because I don't want to have to give Bernick 10 grand. I'm just like, oh my God, please don't win. But I'm feeling awful because Tom's my friend. I've told Tom, he knows. And then at Saratoga, she wins. She wins the Ballerina in a race that I don't know how the hell she won. They were flying on the front end, and she just held off. I believe she turned away Latruska that day, who turned out to be a monster. But that's how good Serengeti Empress was. I was right. I was wrong. And honestly, in all fairness, she should have won she was very close to winning the test when Kofefi, another Breeders' Cup champion, beat her in the test at Saratoga. So I was dodging grade 1s for a long time. And eventually got caught up there. So that's my newspaper of record story. That's my Serengeti Empress story. That was a fun Breeders' Cup. That was 2018, and she was outstanding. Let's see if we have any questions before I ramble on about a couple of more stories. Now I'm not finding it. Here it is. All right, let's see. Okay. All right. Let's see here. No one said anything. All right. So the rest of my Breeders' Cup, kind of some of the successes. You heard the sad story. You've heard the Bobby's Kitten one. If we have a little bit of time at the end, I'll tell the Bobby's Kitten one. But let's go to 2020. Where I ran second in the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge, and my friend Marshall Graham was the winner of that one. But this is a situation where I made a little bit of money with Golden Pal on the Friday, a little bit of money with Aunt Pearl, and then on Saturday, that morning, I drove to Chick-fil-A in Lexington, and I was going to get breakfast, and the line was so long. And I think that the line was long. Because the line was long, I called my friend Sean Borman, a professional horse player from Lexington, amazing opinion. And I called him, and I was just like, hey, Shawnee, what's going on? I'm in Chick-fil-A. You going out there today? I'll see you later, blah, blah. And Sean says, man, I really like glass slippers in the turf sprint. And I wasn't really planning on playing the turf sprint, but I was like, oh, really? I had no idea, because she was from the UK. Sean did some work creating some figures for some of the horses that were coming over from overseas, and he liked glass slippers. And so I decided I wanted to get alive to Knicks Go and doubles. So I don't remember how much I had. I think maybe it was like 14,000. I had on my entry. And I bet the whole 14,000 on doubles using glass slippers, using a couple of others. And I just kind of did some like weighted doubles into Knicks Go. And I would not have, if the line at Chick-fil-A was short, I wouldn't have called Sean. And there's no way I would have used glass slippers, because I didn't know. I didn't know how good she was. I didn't know that she was capable. And in fact, for so long, the Europeans had no success in turf sprints. They just didn't have any. That wasn't where they were beating us at. They were, and so I wouldn't have used her if it wasn't for that. I hit that wager. That went well. I dodged a bullet with the Filly and Mare Turf, the sprint. I didn't like Whitmore, so I dodged a bullet there. I didn't bet the mile. I dodged a bullet with Order of Australia. I had $40,000 on an entry, and I went to the paddock to right before the distaff. And I'm friendly with Liz Crow. She's worked with Marshall Graham for a very long time. She bought Monomoy Girl. Monomoy Girl is her baby. And I just wanted to look her in the eyes and say, Liz, all systems go. And she looked at me, and she had this look of confidence that everything was good with Monomoy Girl. I went back upstairs at Keeneland, and I bet $40,000 in the contest to win on Monomoy Girl. She wins with a tough trip too. She's wide all the way around there. She wins. I end up with 80,000. And then I bet doubles, $80,000 worth of doubles with Tarnawa into Authentic, Tis the Law. I can't remember who else is in the race right now, because I'm Authentic, Tis the Law. Anyways, Authentic was one of them, and I hit it and got to 160,000, I believe. But Marshall hit exactas in the race, and he hit the exacta pretty good, so he went ahead of me. But it was crazy, because this is the story that I told last week, where in between the Tarnawa and Authentic thing, I accidentally called my father, who had passed about a month before that. I called him to tell him the story and what's been going on, and to watch the race, and so an emotional moment. But waiting to find out where you finish when you're that high in the contest is stressful. You know, everyone's they're Jim Goodman and the team, and Tim Schramm, they're looking to make sure everyone, you know, follow the rules and, you know, doing their audit and all that stuff. And so it takes a while for them to make it official. And it was a stressful time, but, you know, it was fun to find out that I got second. So that was a ton of fun. That was my first second in the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge, and one that I'll never forget. And it was the year, it was 2020. So it was obviously the heavy COVID year where, you know, it was limited access, to the Breeders' Cup that year. So, if you've never played in the contest, I recommend that you definitely get involved. It's, you know, there's tons of ways to qualify on Horse Players. And then obviously, like, there's a lot of contests around that you can qualify in as well. You know, Del Mar has a contest this summer that's outstanding, that gives a lot of seats to the Breeders' Cup. In the fall, at Keeneland, Jim Goodman does a phenomenal job, gives out a ton of seats for the Breeders' Cup. Like I said, horseplayers.com, there's a bunch of opportunities. And then also, you know, Naira will have a couple of contests throughout the summer. ExpressBet does a bunch of stuff, where you can get some opportunities to get qualified. And look, and the other thing too is I've always told people is, if you can get a bunch of friends together that want to play or want the action, you know, you can get 4 friends to put in $2,500. The only thing I'll say is that you do want to have you want to have one chef in the kitchen. It's really hard if you've got, you know, 2 friends and 3 friends that are involved, and this guy likes this horse and this girl likes this horse, and it can get a little bit confusing in that setting. So you want to be careful about that, because it can lead to some tricky decision-making obstacles, and you probably want to try to avoid that. But if you have a bunch of people that just want the action, want to be involved, and want to kind of hand over the keys, you know, I do think that it is a fun opportunity. So if you can't get qualified, the other year that I did well was 2000 and what was this one? Was it that one? It was this one. Yeah. This was 2021 at Del Mar. I tried to beat Echo Zulu. That didn't go well. I didn't like Pizza Bianca. That didn't go well. I hated Corniche. That didn't go well. And you couldn't bet on Modern Games, if you remember that situation. So basically on Friday, I was just losing. And then it's not even a Breeders' Cup race. Lone Rock ran on the undercard on Saturday. I went all in on Lone Rock, and I played doubles from Lone Rock into it. It was another turf stake, that, you know, whatever. It was just a turf stake that wasn't a Breeders' Cup race, and that went well. I hit a little CC Golden Pal double. That went well. I went all in on Life is Good to win. He was a very short price, but I basically almost doubled my bankroll. And then here is where I got lucky. I went all in again. And this is one of those moments where things can go awry. I went all in on a double in the Breeders' Cup Sprint, where Aloha West won, just barely beating Dr. Scheibel. And if Dr. Scheibel wins, I lose. I don't remember what it was. Maybe it was 20, 25, 30. I don't remember the number, but I would have lost. And I hit a double with Aloha West into Space Blues. The distaff didn't hurt me. And then I went all in again with Yabir and Tarnawa, were the only 2 horses I used in the turf, in the Longines turf, into Nick's Go and Essential Quality. I pressed Essential Quality. Essential Quality was kind of my stronger opinion. I liked Essential Quality a little bit more. I thought that the pace was going to be really fast. When I set up nice for Essential Quality, there was a lot of chatter about how well Essential Quality was training. And so I just fired away, and that got me to a big number as well. But Matt Miller bet a ton of money to win on Nick Go, and he ended up winning that one. So it was 2 back-to-back seconds. When they crossed the wire, I said to myself, "Oh, I think I can win. I think I can win. I have a chance." And obviously both times I got caught. But so those are my good stories about the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge. I've been playing since 2014. So it took me from 2014 to 2020 to walk away with money. 14, I walked away with 0, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. I all walked away with $0 in the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge. 19 and 20, or 20, excuse me, 20 and 21, those went well. 22 last year, walked away with $0. Went all in on Cave Rock, the juvenile, on that Friday. So yeah, I didn't even make a bet on Saturday. I was wiped out that day. So it's, like I said, it's fun. But I will tell you this: we have some questions that have popped in too. It is fun, but it is a contest in which you have to be, if you really want to win it, you have to be prepared to part with the money. If you treat the money like real money, it's really hard to do what you need to do to make the decisions you need to make to be able to win the contest. Let's see. My man Billy Blake. 2 weeks from now, I will be getting knocked out of the late pick 5 at Saratoga. Come on, Billy, just have some, be optimistic. Billy Blake. If this is the Billy Blake I think it is, I mean, I guess there could be 2 Billy Blakes. I'm thinking this is my man Billy Blake from upstate New York, that I met at Saratoga, Albany. He's lived in Albany. Billy Blake was, and I met him I think I met him in Vegas, at that contest in Vegas, the first time I met him. Billy, funny story. We rented a house in Arcadia back in 2015. I think it was the tour year that I won the tour. And we younger guys like, hey, you want to come stay with us? Billy, so he came out. It was a bunch of guys. We were going to the contest, and Billy came and stayed at this house we rented with a pool. It was very fun. Billy never came back. He got hired at Santa Anita and to work for XBTV, and he never came back. He stayed out there for 2 or 3 years. I think he's back now, but he did stay for a little while. I'm assuming that's Billy Blake. I guess okay. Where's undercar races being? Someone asked, what are my thoughts on the undercard races being a part of the BCBC? I have no problem. They're nice, high quality races. It's not like you're dealing with some 16 non-winners of 2. That can be a little bit annoying. It's just because those races don't have, a little horse trophy, a yellow blanket, doesn't mean they don't deserve to be a part of the day of the contest. It's like saying on Belmont Day that you can't, the undercard races shouldn't be a part of the contest, only the grade 1s. It's fine. I have no problem with it at all. And you don't have to bet them if you don't want to. It's completely optional to bet those races. The only races you have to bet are some of the Breeders' Cup races. So doesn't bother me at all. Especially like I said, I scored on Lone Rock, and it's also fun too because there's always some huge maiden that's running on the undercard, or some big allowance horse that's not quite ready for the big stage. It's running. It's perfectly fine with me. No issues at all. Simon O'Neill said, do you think you should have done something different, or was I happy with the way I played it? In 2000, I guess I had a chance to win in 2018 when I lost with Accelerate. One thing I'm mad about in that situation, my opinion was trying to beat Accelerate. And I don't think that opinion was ever going to change. One thing I was annoyed about, and it didn't affect me, I shouldn't have used Mind Your Biscuits. I fell for that trick, and that was stupid, and I never should have. Not that I would have used Accelerate, but I wish I wouldn't have wasted, it was just dead equity. At Keeneland, yeah, there was one thing I was a little annoyed about at Keeneland. I said I played doubles with Tarnawa into the 4 horses that I think it was Tis the Law. If I pull up the field, I would find it, but I don't want to, that might take too long. It was Tis the Law, Authentic. Was McKinsey in there? I feel like it was another Baffert horse. And anyways, I wish I did use a little bit of Channel Maker in the turf race. I didn't use him enough that money used only on Tarnawa would have helped, but I did use Channel Maker a little bit. He ran well that day too. So no real mistake there. And then at Del Mar, no real mistake either. I needed Yabir and Tarnawa, and I needed Essential Quality and Nick's Go. I guess the one thing that I could have done was done a little bit better on Friday. If I would have done a little bit better on Friday, my bankroll would have been a little bit bigger. So every time I made moves, I would have had a little bit more money, and maybe doing the exact same thing I did, I would have had enough money to get me where I needed to be. Yeah, Billy said, yeah, he met his wife in LA. And he found out she grew up in Albany. My man. Okay, Chris Couples. Let's pull this one up. Look, you know what happens to people. See, I think this is my point that I was trying to make. He said, I've had some strong opinions on some undercard races, just being green to contests. I've not played them hard in BCB. Lessons learned. That is because we are getting caught up in the fact that it's real money. And, I understand the hype of wanting to have money left for your opinions, but you're going to have to risk your bankroll, your entire bankroll, more than 2 or 3 times if you want to win. You can try to nickel and dime it to get big and then kind of take that one swing. But I don't care where the race is. Like I said, I went all in on an undercard race with Lone Rock. I usually try to wait to the Breeders' Cup races if I can. I'm usually, I understand where you're coming from. I don't want to get snapped in a grade 3, 7 furlong grade 3 that's race 3 on Friday. It's not necessarily how I want my contest to end. But don't be afraid if you like something on the undercard to make sure you use them. Yes. Michael, you're right. It was Improbable, the Baffert horse, and Tom's the Taw were the other 2 horses that I used in that race. Yeah, I didn't really like Authentic. So that was just, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. It was just kind of, I don't know how else to say this, so don't get annoyed that I'm saying it. That was just kind of good betting. I didn't like Authentic that much, but I respected him. And so I had enough on him that could still give me a chance to win. I think to that point, Tom's the Taw, Improbable, excuse me. If I'm not mistaken, if Improbable wins, I finish my bankroll with 250, I think. I think I ended with 250. No, maybe 300. So I definitely would have won if Improbable would have won. And he ran well. He had a bad trip too. So it was Improbable and Tom's a Taw. What do you think about betting on a Forte to win? Forte is going to have to get a little faster. I think he showed a ton of talent. He showed a ton of class, but he is going to have to get a little bit faster. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's going to have to get a little bit faster to win the Breeders' Cup Classic. And it's possible. He like I said, he showed a ton of talent to do so. All right. So what I want to do, we got a couple more minutes. Everyone, if you're listening, I'm at Breeders' Cup website right now, just kind of flipping through the races, trying to remember and think. But I want everyone to tell me who right now, odds aside, okay, no odds, because it just makes it a much more complicated conversation. If you could bet one horse to win one of the 14 Breeders' Cup races this year, just one horse to win one of the 14, and it doesn't matter the odds, you just have to pick one, and you just got to be right one time. Who is the horse that you would bet, and what race would you bet them in? And I'm looking now, so I'm going to, say words so we don't have dead air, but I'm going to look. I know everyone else is going to keep kind of popping them in there. Remember, it's Santa Anita. So it's, you're going to have the 2-turn dirt mile. I think I know what mine is. You got the person sprint, the mile, distaff. Okay. The turf and the classic. Okay. Let's see if anyone's put any else in here. Oh, Simon stole mine. Simon stole mine. He stole mine. He stole mine. Yep, in Italian. I think she's a monster. I think she's going to love the firm turf. I think that even going a little bit longer is better. She just doesn't seem to get tired. You know, she's done well going shorter, but I think longer is better for her because she just cruises and clips along. I knock on wood. I think I'll be, you know, I think I don't know if she'll lose again the rest of the year. And I think the filly and mare race, I think she'll be tough. Michael says he's asked the question, no runner, no bet, meaning, you know, if you're betting a future situation, you can buy futures where if the horse doesn't run, then you get your refund. But that's kind of part of the action that you want when you're doing these is you want that kind of built-in price where you need to get them in the starting gate too. But yeah, Equinox looks like a monster. That race in Japan last week was outstanding, but it sounds like they're going to Japan Cup. The Breeders' Cup does a great job, though, at going over there and talking to people and convincing them to come and run in these races. And especially with a Japanese horse, a little bit of behind the scenes, it's very important for them to get international interest. If they can have Japan watching the Breeders' Cup and betting on the Breeders' Cup, and Asia in general watching the Breeders' Cup with a big favorite in a big race, it helps handle. And so it would make sense for the Breeders' Cup to take a big swing at trying to get Equinox to come over. Cody's Wish Dirt Mile. Yeah, I like that idea. I want to see. The problem is, though, here with Cody's Wish, and we're winding down. We got a couple minutes left. Well, I guess we can go over. I'm not going to fire us. The problem with Cody's Wish in that situation is that Cody's Wish is going to run in the Whitney, and he's going to win. I believe he's going to win the mile in an 8th Whitney. And at that point, there's no reason for him to go back to the dirt mile. You got to think who owns him. Godolphin owns him. Sheikh Mohammed owns him. They don't need him to win the dirt mile again. They don't need the purse money. They need to create a resume for a stallion, and winning the classic is what makes him a huge potential star as a stallion. I agree with you. If he ran in that race, I don't think he'll run in that race. Simon says Appleby to win the turf. We'll see who he brings. Modern games didn't run very well, but I would imagine he'll show back up and be dangerous as well. So, I don't really have, I think Goodnight Olive's got a good shot of repeating. I know her figures, she's kind of got herself in tricky situations the last couple of races. She got beat at Churchill. She kind of tricky trip last time at Belmont, but I think when the real running starts and the big races come back, I think she'll be tough. So, well, like we said, unfortunately, because of the cancellations due to the weather in the Midwest, we didn't have a HorsePlayer Happy Hour contest today. But make sure you tune in. If you want to play in the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge, there's no better way to try to get qualified than participating in HorsePlayer Happy Hour. There's a number of ways to do it. Make sure you pay attention every week, get involved, play. Just play. Look, even if you're busy, throw in the $25 and just fast cap it. Hurry up. Boom, 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 boom. Just make sure you're participating, trying to get points, trying to earn your way in to the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge, the best contest in the world. And there's no better way to get in to the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge than with $25. I appreciate everyone for taking the time, hanging out with us for an hour. Make sure you tune in next week. HorsePlayer Happy Hour, pending any weather, we'll be back with a contest. And like PTF always says, may you win all your photos.